That Bible Guy community, fellow patrons. It's so good to do this video for you today, which is only a Patreon only video, just for you guys, to say thanks for your support in this ministry, for following along with me as I try to get God's word out there. I need to start with good news this morning, just to let you in on the good news. I suppose the good news in terms of the ministry, which I just want to make you feel excited about the ministry that you're part of at the moment. Again, just things that it's not to do with me, it's all to do with God and your support. But just my latest video, you may have seen the Anthropic principle fine-tuning, which we're going to cover in a moment. I put that up 3 days ago. I tweaked things. As you notice, it was shorter, and I edited it. My daughter edited it, not me. Just in 3 days, it's had 110 views, which is way ahead of any other video I've done so far, which is really exciting. I want to get it out there more. There's a lot of things to share actually, probably, but I'll kind of keep it brief. This morning, I got another Patreon, and I just want to say that I just in the one day I've got $50 more in 1 month. I'm overwhelmed. I'm genuinely overwhelmed. God is incredible. You're incredible. And I feel like as of now, I can pretty much start focusing on this work in 1 day. I'm going to meet out with someone. This is another purpose of these videos on Thursdays for you only, is to talk about who we studying the Bible with. I'm studying the Bible with a guy today. Again, I'll not say too much at the moment, but it was someone who tried to take his own life in December of last year. And I'll be honest with you, we had planned his funeral. Good friend at the school. I genuinely had thought about what day his funeral was going to be on, and we've studied before the lockdown. Haven't done much for 3 months, but we're meeting up again today, and he describes himself as open. It's a good start. So I'll fill you in more on that, but that's exciting. Loads of exciting stuff going on. I feel fit to burst, as they say sometimes. It's trying to keep your mind calm in these times. But yeah, the good thing is to focus on content that God is sharing with me, and no doubt with you. Please, again, pass these things on to your friends. Spread the word. Share things that you learn from this, just even with us, with the community on That Bible Guy. But thank you so much. As I will always say, I am so grateful. You've seen before, faith acronym, F, first cause, beginning of the universe, A, Anthropic principle, second week, fine-tuning argument or teleological argument. Try and keep it not too technical. It's easy, so better that we can understand it. So we're on to Anthropic principle. So we're going to look at the objections to that and how to engage in conversation about it. So the first thing, as you know, we broke this last week into hard skeptic, soft skeptic, and seeker. In terms of today, we'll probably not cover the seeker so much. Somebody seeking, it's pretty self-explanatory. We're going to bring them along with whatever they need. We're not probably talking about the Anthropic principle so much, although it certainly has brought many people to become followers of God. Many people today, including scientists and a physics student that I studied the Bible with, this was the number one reason that they held to a belief that a God was possible, probable, or that they do believe in God, was down to the fine-tuning argument. It's a very irresistible argument for the idea of God. We've taken it for granted for years because the Bible tells us in Psalm 19 and in Acts as well, it tells us that God has made this world the way it is. So we'll focus on the hard skeptic, soft skeptic today. So the hard skeptic is the person who presents objections to you. And they say, well, there's two main objections to the fine-tuning of the universe. The first one is that it just is the way it is, and there's no point asking why it is this way, because we wouldn't be here to observe it if it wasn't this way. There's a few problems I have with that. The first problem is the goal of physics is to understand our universe. The goal of science is to understand our universe. Our scientific advancements have become because we've become aware of a measure or a system or a structure that we've investigated and then found the laws and mathematical laws behind that structure because we've investigated what we've seen. That's the goal. To stand back and observe structure and order and complexity and say, there's no point observing it, it's just like that, it doesn't strike me as a very scientific argument. Remember my illustration from my video on Monday? You go into the shop, my entire family is 6 people. The shop has a bag with each of our names on it, all lined up in one row on its own, in the order of our ages. Really? I should just look at that and say, it just is the way it is? No, it indicates something. It clearly indicates something. I'm playing cards with my daughter, and I like it when I win, although she's old enough to take it now. There was a time when she couldn't take it and I had to let her win. I need to let my 6-year-old daughter win. My soon-to-be 12-year-old daughter, still 11, we play cards. If I get 20 royal flushes in a row, that just is that way, Sophie. So it's a big universe, so there's bound to be somebody else out there that's done this or hasn't done this. So I'm only one of 15,000 people are playing cards right now, and one of us were bound to turn up 20 royal flushes in a row. Really, Dad? Is she going to buy that? Of course she's not going to buy that. It's not scientific. It's not being objective. It's not a reasonable response. Everything we've seen in our known universe that ever indicates order, it implies order. It implies structure. It implies prior thinking behind the structure that we have observed. It's simply not good enough to say it just is the way it is. That's not the way we operate in this world, in any area or sphere at all. So that's to say on that one. I'm also writing some things on that at the minute, so I can also write some of this up as well. But the other one, this is the number one you're going to hear. This is the number one objection you're going to hear over and over and over again, and it's a very interesting theory: multiverse, many worlds hypothesis, or the multiverse. The multiverse is the idea that there's an likely infinite number of other universes out there. There was bound to be one that had the perfect conditions that allows us to survive and live in this universe. Now, there's a difference between multiple universes and an infinite number of universes. An infinite number of universes, it doesn't really work, to be honest, and I'll tell you why in a minute, but an infinite number of universe implies that there's every other known type of universe out there. And again, we'll come to that in a minute. That causes all kinds of problems. But here's a few reasons I've wrote down due investigations as to why I do not believe that the multiverse is an acceptable theory to explain, well, this is why it all appears finely tuned. Number one, there is simply no evidence for this theory. It's conjecture, it's speculative, it's a theory proposed on the basis of no evidence as yet. Possible evidence, but no evidence as yet. What theory do we take seriously that comes our way that has no evidence attached to it? It tells us where it came from. It was an attempt to get out of the God hypothesis because of a finely tuned universe. So it simply came with no evidence to back it up. And that's the first problem with it. The second problem with it, as I say, it's agenda driven. It's not driven by facts. It's driven by an agenda to get out of another hypothesis. So it doesn't come with its own facts to back it up. It's just trying to get rid of a different theory that they don't like. So I don't take it seriously until it comes with facts. That's the first. And the second one, let's say the second one, it's just driven by agenda. The third one then is, if it's true, especially infinite universes, but if it's true that there are multiple universes, it requires an even greater explanation. And many people have acknowledged this. The multiverse itself is described by specific physical laws themselves that also include constants and initial boundary conditions within that universe, which must be fine-tuned in order for a multiverse to exist. There's all kinds of entry conditions and constants and levels of energy that are measured a certain way in order to make the universes be there at all. So if true, it requires even greater explanation. And again, there's a lot of source material for that in different articles that others who believed. And again, actually on this, a vocal opponent, original architect of the multiverse was Paul Steinhardt of Princeton University. He was the original architect of the theory. He's since is now an opponent of the multiverse, because introducing the model of the multiverse eventually he realized in order to explain the conditions of our universe, it actually ended up explaining nothing. It actually needed more explanation itself, and he went back on his original theory. I think I also have an article here as well. Is it Stephen Hawking, also, who was a proponent of the multiverse in order to get rid of the God hypothesis, but he came with lots of problems as well. In Hawking's older version of the multiverse, just reading an excerpt from The Guardian here, the hypothesis: there's great variety among the laws in different universes, in some gravity stronger and some weaker, and so on. However, physicists have come to see problems with such a heterogeneous multiverse, especially if the number of universes is infinite. We work out the predictions of given multiverse hypothesis by asking how probable our universe is according to that hypothesis. But if there's an infinite number of universes, that question becomes meaningless. And hence, in his final paper, A Smooth Exit from Eternal Inflation, Hawking and his co-writer Thomas Hertog formulate strict limits to the kind of universe that populate the multiverse. Strict limits? The problem with the less variety there is among universes, the less capable the multiverse hypothesis is of explaining fine-tuning. So even they discovered problems with it. It doesn't explain it. It starts to become limited to certain types of universes, and then you're left with exactly the same problem. It doesn't fix anything. So that's the third thing. The fourth thing is that the odds against our universe and that we be in this universe are far greater than they are for it. It's much more likely that we would not be in this universe. Again, that's just an odds and mathematical formula. Again, we can delve into that one more again. So that's 4. But number 5 is, if the multiverse was true, and it's an infinite number of universes, we would be observing highly extraordinary events. We wouldn't be governed by the strict mathematical laws that we have that are constant, and we would be observing highly unlikely events. Just on that one as well, number 6, if the multiverse was true and there was every possible universe, and here's one that you maybe need to think about, then there's going to be one out there, because that's what they say. If there's an unlimited number, an infinite number, then there's one out there that has no morality. There's a universe out there with people on it, but there's a universe out there that has no morality, because there's every possible universe. There's a universe out there that has no morality at all. No sense of morality, subjectively or objectively. That's absurd. There are universes that we have to imagine that are simply absurd. How could there be a universe with no morality? But that's the dumb thing. That's just the way it is. We cannot comprehend such a thing. Number 7, if the multiverse were the case, and again, I need to look into more of the science behind this one. This is a good one to look into, is that we would be observing a much smaller region of disequilibrium. And again, some of the guys touch on it in some of the articles about cold spots and a sense of equilibrium. So we would be observing a much smaller universe if that were the case. Number 8, and I like this one. This one's grown on me at the first. And this is all to do with the ontological argument, which again, it seems like a strange type of argument, but I can understand its thinking when we link it to the multiverse. If there are multiple universes out there, excuse me, then there's one in which God exists. If it's possible that a superior being exists, then, and if you work through this hypothesis, then because there's every possible universe out there, and because it's possible that a supreme being exists, then in some possible universe God exists. If God exists in one universe, then he exists in every universe. If he exists in every universe, he exists in our universe. What on earth is that all about? Look up the ontological argument. But it makes sense. If there's every possible universe out there, then there's every possible scenario out there, then there's one with God in it. If God's in one, then he's obviously going to be in all, then he's going to be in ours. Hope that makes sense to you. Get back to me if it doesn't. And we can be baffled together, because I get it a bit, but I need to look at it more. The best explanation, and this is what we're going back to, for the design of our universe is it's finely tuned for life. Because someone has finally tuned it for life. There's a theory called Occam's razor, which means we don't need to come back and back and back to explain a cause if there's a simpler explanation that exists. We don't have to keep striving to find an alternative explanation if a simpler one exists. Some people don't find it adequate, and then they come up with other theories that have no evidence, no backing whatsoever. Those who come up with it go against it, and that explains it. So that's just some thoughts today on the multiverse, which is the biggest argument to fine-tuning. And again, that's 9 or 10 points, which we can explore them in different detail. And you can see why it takes a bit of time. I would suggest I would master 3 of these. Just get 3 of them that you like the best, with a little quote thrown in when you're on the street, when you're at home, when family, somebody throws out, but yeah, there's multiple universes. Well, have you considered? And there's the 3 points. So that's the person who's hard objection, and these are the 2 main objections, and I feel like they're well dealt with in that. Soft seeker, so somebody, soft skeptic, sorry. Good if they are a soft seeker, but soft skeptic, so someone who's like, fine-tuning, yeah, I'm not sure. No, I think it lends more towards multiverse, something other theory. And just on that last point, actually, on the first point, I said there's the theory with no evidence. Be very wary of people who throw out all possible theories. I appreciate what you're doing, but what's the evidence for it? And where have you seen that evidence? That's the key bit of the question, to engage with anybody who throws out all these possible scenarios to get out of what you're suggesting. Again, inference to the best explanation. The best explanation for the universe that we live in is that it's finely tuned for life, and that God, or an intelligent mind, supreme being, is the best explanation for that cause. The soft skeptic, so the person who's open-minded, not sure, maybe again slants one way or the other, but he's open-minded. But he'll have views. How did you come? Or what do you believe about the origins of the universe? How can you explain the fine-tuning of the universe? How would you best explain it? Why do you think it's happened? So again, this may be something that people just haven't thought about. They've taken it for granted their whole life. Even the complexity within the human body, which I've studied as a physiotherapist, or even childbirth, how a child is formed in the womb. Yeah, I know things go wrong, but the vast majority are incredibly well created, as all human beings. So asking questions about how they understand complexity, how that relates to the world that they live in. When they see anything that's ordered or complex, they know there's a mind behind it. So extrapolating that out, how do they explain fine-tuning? Again, it's a loaded question when you say fine-tuning. How do you explain what appears to be finely tuned universe? How do you explain that? And then when they give an answer, if it's all in a different answer, well, how did you come to that conclusion? Again, what made you come to that conclusion? And that may be the time where you realize they've got a negative view about God. And this is a very important point. At this point, I'm not trying to convince people to follow Jesus. I will later on. I'm not trying to convince them that it's the God of the Bible. I'll do that later on. I'm trying to convince them that there's a mind behind our universe. And if there's a mind behind our universe, finely tuning all the dials for us so that we can exist and live and thrive, well, what else has he done? Once we open their mind up to the possibility that God is behind our universe, that he could be, then I want to narrow that down into Acts 17. God has determined the times and places. God reaches out for every one of us. We're without excuse, Romans 1 says, because we can see all that God has made. We'll get there, but for now there's a limit to what I'm trying to convince the person of. I want to open their mind to the possibility of the fine-tuning argument. Some great people that we can mention in that respect, as well as many other people who've been converted based on Anthony Flew, a guy who studied out DNA, a scientist who studied out DNA and realized this cannot have come about by chance. It is simply not possible for this to come about by chance. So it's seeing the open seeker, it's open skeptic, and introducing these ideas of, do you know what? Let's get into it. Why are things the way they are? What is the best explanation? Yeah, I know you've got an alternative theory, but what is the likely best explanation? You introduce your best explanation as God. Well, why are you so? And this is the key bit. Why are you so hostile to believe in that? Well, because the God of the Bible. Well, at the minute, I'm not talking about the God of the Bible. Yeah, but Jesus being the only way. I'm not talking about Jesus right now. I'm talking about a creator behind our universe. Is that the best explanation, or is it not? And that's the key bit. Limit where I'm going at the moment. If they're hostile to the other bits, we can get there, but just let's set limits on it for now, if we can. So I don't want to go on too long here at the moment. I'll be back again next week with the moral argument, injustice, FAI, injustice, moral argument, looking into the origins of morality, where it comes from, moral obligation, all these kind of things. Please drop me your thoughts on this video. Let me know the conversations you're having, the studies you're having. Let me know if it's helping you in any way, or thoughts or future studies you'd like to see. Again, you're incredible, guys. You're part of this community. God is doing amazing things. I want you to know that and hopefully see that. I do pray you're all doing well during this pandemic and all the things that are going on in the world right now. I know it's very unstable. Lots of crazy stuff going on. I'm definitely praying for the world. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. I'll be back with you all again soon. Let's get his word out there. Amen.